Hello everyone, my name is Max and today I will be doing a overview Open Payments and how to use the Open Payments client. So to give some quick refresher, Open Payments is an API standard for account servicing entities, basically digital wallets, banks, mobile money provider that allows third parties to securely access digital wallets. So digital wallets being the end user accounts for viewing account information and initiating payments. Essentially, if an account servicing entity is running Open Payments on their system, third parties know exactly how to interact with and how to interact and do actions on their users' accounts. How does it work? So essentially, it's an API that exposes resources protected by grants. Resources, we have in Open Payments 4 resources. We have wallet addresses, incoming payments, quotes, and outgoing payments. So a wallet address is like an email address. It represents a user account. So it's the thing that's linked to the end user account at a bank or a digital wallet. An incoming payment is essentially funds or money coming in for a recipient, and it's basically a bucket of money being kind of pooled into a place that the recipient can get credit for. And we have quotes. Essentially, we'll be able to tell how much is going to cost for a user to pay into an incoming payment. And then finally, outgoing payment is a payment representing money out of the sender account, essentially the final step in orchestrating a payment. So these 4 resources that we have are protected by grants. So a grant is essentially it's what a third party needs to have in order to access these resources, with the exception of wallet address because it's public information, it's publicly available. So a grant specifies exactly what access a third party has to particular resources and to what extent, with which limits, etc., etc. So kind of what a payment flow would look like is first we would set up an incoming payment on the recipient wallet address. We would then create a quote on the sender wallet address, and then finally we'd create an outgoing payment on the sender wallet address. So this is what a client would do to initiate a payment between a recipient and a sender. So these 3 kind of resources are needed to make the funds move. But of course, right, each of those resources needs a grant. First, third party needs to have a grant to be able to create and read and list those resources. Some grants actually are interactive, so it means that the end user needs to make an interaction with this whole grant creation process to give access to their account, right? We don't want third parties just to be able to request funds out of accounts, and we need the user's permissions in certain scenarios. Well, in all scenarios for outgoing payments. Let's do a quick example. So essentially, say we have Bob who uploads his music to a site called Music Place, and Alice is a shopper at Music Place. Essentially, she's buying tracks on sites. And Bob has this Open Payments enabled bank account, and then Alice has an account at a digital wallet, which is also Open Payments enabled. And Music Place, speaking the language of Open Payments, it can easily move funds between Alice and Bob without needing to know Alice and Bob's banking number details. It doesn't need to know the specific details about how to orchestrate an actual bank transfer or wherever that may be, and what kind of currency. Essentially, Bob and Alice, they just need an Open Payments wallet address. So Bob will provide a wallet address when he signs up at Music Place and posts his music, and then Alice at checkout is providing her Open Payments wallet address. So from the perspective of Music Place, there are a few steps in order to actually make the money move between Alice and Bob. So first, what the music place would do, this is I'm speaking music place as the software, right? So what the music place, say, backend service would do, it would create a grant request on Bob's wallet address, right, to be able to have permission to create an incoming payment. So essentially, it goes to Bob's open payments server, grabs the grant for the incoming payment, creates the incoming payment on Bob's account. So essentially, it'll be say if a track is cost €5, it'll say, okay, we'll make an incoming payment for €5, and then that will be embedded in the incoming payment. So Bob knows how much he will be receiving. Now, going towards Alice and her wallet address, Music Place will then request a grant to create a quote on Alice's account. Again, this is done kind of, all these requests are happening every time, but maybe Alice actually has shopped before, so Music Place maybe has already the grant, but I'm just explaining the full process. So Alice would make Music Place would make a request on Alice's server to be able to create quotes. Music Place gets the grant and then creates a quote. So a quote will specify how much in Alice's currency it will cost her to make that payment, and this information can actually be provided in the next step. So when a Music Place is requesting a grant to create an outgoing payment out of Alice's account, what will happen is the server, the open payment server, will say, okay, for this particular grant, Alice actually needs to go in and make some sort of interaction with the process. So she'll most likely see a screen on her page saying, do you accept Music Place withdrawing this amount of money? So maybe €5 and maybe a little more than €5 because of fees. And then she'll be able to specify, yes, that is okay. And once that's happened, once she's authorized the payment, Music Place will go ahead and create the final resource, essentially the outgoing payment, and will finally because of this interoperability layer of open payments, the two systems will know exactly how to exchange funds without Music Place ever needing to know the exact, let's say, banking or IBAN number of Bob. So, and then money will flow between the two institutions. So in our case, it's over the Interledger protocol. But again, for Music Place, that was a pretty easy way to move money across, just by getting two wallet addresses from Alice and Bob. So what is a client? So in our case, it's an e-commerce shop, right? This is Music Place. You can have multiple clients do different functionality, right? So maybe there's some sort of financial tracker app which may not necessarily initiate payments, but maybe it does aggregate all the incoming payments, outgoing payments, such that a user can see exactly just an overview of their account. And essentially, any bit of software that knows how to make open payments requests is the client. What is exactly required to be a client? So when one of those steps is a public wallet address, right? So then when Alice is, it's how the client identifies itself. So if when Alice is going through the consent screen, right, she should be able to know who is requesting money out of her account. In this case, it's Music Place, and then Music Place as the client will provide, here's my wallet address. You can query it for information. Maybe we can give more details about who it is. The other three things are related to security. So when Music Place is creating I'm using Music Place example, when creating the a client, it will generate a public-private key pair. It will use the private key to make requests, and then it's the public key of the public-private key pair. It will be accessible at the wallet address / jbks.json, and this available public key can be used to verify that indeed it was MusicPlace making it was the client that was signing the message, and it's the correct client. And because a client can have multiple keys, it needs to provide which key it used in that particular request to sign. So these three things are to make sure that it's the correct client and software that's making those requests, and those requests themselves weren't tampered with during the process. Yeah. So if the question is, if I want to build a client, okay, what are the steps that you need to do to build a client? So how do I get a wallet address, right, as a requirement for a client? You can get it at our test wallet, so it's called Rafiki Money, and you essentially can make multiple wallet addresses for particular accounts. How do I generate key pairs? So again, you can go to Rafiki Money and then generate particular keys for the wallet addresses you have created in the UI as well. Do you need to figure out all the signature stuff? No, we have a library that handles all the signing of the request as long as you provide the key. And how do I know what to make word requests to Maze? How do I know what the request payloads are? We have the specifications on their site. It will break down all the fields that needed to make requests when you're creating incoming payments, outgoing payments, etc. And there's also guides at the site. So yes, Rafiki Money is our test wallet, and then everything can be done through there, and it uses Play Money essentially to as a representative of a test wallet. So that was part one, and yeah, we will now proceed on building a client in part two.